You've seen it before. One man enters a room, and without saying much, he owns it. Every eye follows him, every ear listens when he speaks, not because he's loud, but because his words carry weight. Then there's the other man, the one who tries too hard. He talks fast, jokes often, fills every silence just to feel seen. People nod politely and forget him seconds later. The difference isn't luck, it's presence, and presence can't be faked. It's built, word by word, silence by silence. The Stoics understood something most men today have forgotten. Attraction isn't about addition, it's about subtraction. Not be louder, not be funnier, but speak less, mean more, because when a man no longer needs attention, he starts to command it. When he stops performing, people start to feel his authentic power. This isn't manipulation, this is discipline. It's learning to speak with clarity, calm, and conviction, so that every word lands like a stone dropped in still water. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." So today, you'll learn 6 communication principles, each distilled into powerful words that instantly shift how people perceive you. Not because you're pretending to be confident, but because you've learned to be still enough to let your words carry truth. If you've ever wondered why some men attract effortlessly while others chase endlessly, this video will show you the difference. Let's begin. Phrase 1. Tell me more about that. 4 words. Soft, unassuming, dangerous, in the best way. Most men react to conversation like they react to a challenge. They move in, they stake territory, they show proof of worth. Someone says, "I started learning guitar," and the reflex is immediate. "Oh yeah, I played in college. Let me tell you about my band." The instant you hijack that doorway you were given, you shut the other person out. Conversation becomes a duel of selves. People listen politely while mentally planning their exit. Tell me more about that does the opposite. It hands the other person the floor and refuses to take it back. But that refusal isn't passive. It's deliberate. It's an act of attention that carries force. Why it works? The psychology. Humans crave being understood. We walk through life with most of our inner world unread. The rare person who actually asks to read it, who genuinely wants to know, becomes unforgettable. When you say, "Tell me more about that," you create 2 effects at once. 1. You validate. You communicate that this person's inner world is worth time and interest. Validation lowers guards. It expands trust. 2. You amplify. Curiosity acts like fuel. People go deeper, give details they normally wouldn't, and reveal parts of themselves they keep guarded. This isn't manipulation. It's a calibrated use of attention. You're offering presence. Presence is a kind of currency most people are bankrupt in. Spend it wisely, and you become wealthy in influence. Stoic roots, active listening as discipline. Epictetus advised us to remember we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That wasn't merely etiquette. It was technique. Stoics trained attention like soldiers train posture. Listening isn't an absence of action, it's an intentional muscle. When you listen well, you're not passive. You're choosing the strategic high ground. You gain information, you lower friction, you create alignment. Marcus Aurelius wrote about attending fully to what's in front of you. In practice, that means when someone speaks, you are there. Not somewhere else, not composing a comeback. You are there. That presence is itself attractive because it implies mastery. You control your attention. You do not scatter it seeking approval. Examples that show the difference. Scenario A, the common mistake. Her, "I've been learning guitar." You, "Nice, I played in college. We used to do bar gigs. You should try this method I learned." Result? She nods. The subject drifts. The connection thins. You leave thinking you impressed her. She leaves thinking you dominated the floor. Scenario B, the Stoic move. Her, I've been learning guitar. You, tell me more about that. She, I love it because it clears my head. I'm trying to learn fingerpicking. You, what song are you working on? What made you pick guitar instead of piano? She opens up. You listen. You follow up. The conversation becomes her telling a story and you being the rare audience who wanted to hear it. Practical mechanics. How to make it genuine. You can't fake this. The moment your curiosity is a performance, the spell breaks. So how do you make it authentic? Slow down. Pause before you speak. Let the space feel comfortable. Silence invites depth. Eye contact, small nods, measured questions. Non-verbal signals must match the words. Lean slightly forward. Let your posture say, I'm present. Ask specific follow-ups. Don't stop at, tell me more. Move 2. What surprised you about learning it? Who taught you? How has it changed your week? Mirror their energy. If they get excited, match that energy briefly. If they're cautious, be gentle. Emotional attunement builds trust. When not to use it. There are times it's inappropriate. Tactical debriefs, status meetings where time is limited, or when someone's clearly venting and needs resolution, not excavation. Also avoid overusing it. If every sentence ends with, tell me more about that, it becomes a tick, not a tool. The power dynamic. Why listening attracts. Most men think attraction is produced by display. It often is, but not the way they imagine. Display that invites, competence, calm, direction, draws people in because it promises safety and novelty. But true magnetism is twofold. You are interesting because you are interesting, and you are irresistible because you make others feel interesting. People return to the man who gave them the rare commodity of focused attention. Long-term payoff. When you habitually practice this kind of listening, you build relationships faster and deeper. People start to seek you out to be heard. They associate you with understanding. In social, professional, and romantic spheres, that reputation is leverage. Not manipulative leverage, but earned influence. Final thought. Presence as power. Tell me more about that is not a checklist item. It's a posture of life. Curiosity anchored by restraint. Say it only when you mean it. When you do, watch how conversations change. People will give you more than information. They'll give you trust. And trust is the currency you can spend on storms without losing your calm. So the next time the door opens, the next time someone offers a fragment of themselves, step back, lower your voice, and say, tell me more about that. Then, for once, hold your tongue and really listen. You'll learn more in silence than most men do in a lifetime of speeches. Phrase 2. I don't know. 3 words. Small. Radical. In a world that worships certainty, admitting ignorance feels like a public unmasking. We're taught to perform competence, to have an opinion, to flash expertise, to fill silence with confident noise. So when someone asks something we're unsure about, the reflex is to bluff, parrot jargon, invent a plausible-sounding answer, or steer the conversation to territory where we feel safe. It's a social survival tactic. But it's also cheap currency, and people feel when it's counterfeit. What happens when you fake knowledge? The language might ride smooth, but it rings hollow. The gestures don't match the conviction. You can see it in the listener's face, polite, guarded, waiting for the mask to slip. The cost of that performance is trust. If a man will pretend to know one thing, what else will he pretend about? That tiny lie stretches. Confidence that's manufactured collapses under scrutiny because it's built on the brittle foundation of ego rather than truth. Now watch the opposite. Someone slows, breathes, and says, simply and calmly, "I don't know." No apology, no hedging, no attempt to cover. That admission lands heavier than any fake certainty. Why? Because it signals more than the absence of knowledge. It signals integrity. Socrates didn't say, "I know nothing," to be clever. He named the only true starting point for wisdom. Recognizing the boundary of your knowledge is the first competent thing you can do. It frees you from the constant need to perform and lets your words be rare and therefore valuable. The psychology is straightforward. People value honesty because honesty reduces risk. When you misrepresent what you know, you create uncertainty about everything you say. Being honest about ignorance does the opposite. It creates clarity. It tells people they can rely on you to call reality what it is. That reliability is a magnet. Practical benefits of saying, "I don't know." Credibility multiplier. If you're honest about limits, your statements where you do have expertise carry more weight. People stop squinting for the bluff and begin to listen for the moments of substance. Conversation amplifier. "I don't know" invites collaboration. Follow it with "want to figure it out together," and you transform a performance into shared inquiry. You move from one-man theater to thoughtful alliance. Emotional steadiness. Admitting ignorance reduces the anxiety of performance. You stop defending an image and start engaging with reality. That calm, unstaged presence is attractive in a way no showmanship is. Real-world examples. Boardroom. The boss asks about a market trend you haven't analyzed. A bluff risks bad strategy. Saying, "I don't know the current metrics, let me pull the data and report back," wins trust and prevents costly decisions based on wishful thinking. First date. Someone asks your opinion about a book you haven't read. Instead of inventing praise, say, "I don't know it. What did you like about it?" You avoid sounding performative and you make the other person feel heard. Friendship. A friend asks advice about an issue you haven't faced. Don't manufacture expertise. Say, "I don't know from experience, but I can help you research or find someone who does." That's support without fraud. How to say it like a man who knows himself. Saying, "I don't know," is not a limp surrender. It's a posture. To make it work, do these 3 things. 1. Deliver it calmly. Panic or defensive humor turns honesty into weakness. Speak it like a fact. Clear, unhurried. 2. Add direction. Follow up with a plan. "I don't know. Here's how I'll find out." Or, "I don't know. What do you think?" Direction preserves agency. 3. Match with follow-through. If you promise to look into something, do it. Honesty without action is theatrical. Honesty with follow-through builds reputation. Pitfalls to avoid. Don't weaponize "I don't know" to dodge responsibility. Use it to clarify, not to evade. Don't pretend ignorance only to avoid hard conversations. That's cowardice, not clarity. Don't overuse it as an affectation. Repeated "I don't knows" without curiosity or consequence becomes tick-like and loses credibility. Why this matters for men in relationships. Men are taught that uncertainty equals weakness. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Strength lies in accurate perception. "I don't know" is a discipline of perception. It is admitting the world as it is, not as your ego insists it be. In relationships, professional, romantic, civic, that discipline breeds trust, and trust is the currency of influence. Think of your words like arrows. An arrow fired without aim just makes noise. An arrow aimed and released truthfully finds its mark. Saying "I don't know" narrows your shots to what you can actually hit. Over time, people stop mentally checking your aim. They accept your presence as reliable. That acceptance turns into respect, and respect into real authority. Final thought. Honesty about ignorance is not humility theater. It's a foundation. When you can sit in a room and say, "I don't know," without blinking, you reveal a steadiness others don't have the courage to show. That steadiness becomes your signal. It announces that your truths are earned, not conjured. People prefer a man who knows the limits of his map to a man who insists every map must be right. So practice it. Pause. If you're unsure, say plainly, "I don't know." Then act, learn, consult, decide. That loop, admit, investigate, execute, is how competence is built. Over time, your rare certainties will carry the weight of a life chosen by reason, not by pose. That is real power. Phrase 3. That sounds difficult. 3 small words. Quiet, precise, profound. Most people hear a confession. Work's crushing me. My relationship is falling apart. I don't know how to keep up. And reflexively switch into fixer mode. Solutions pour out like water from a broken pipe. Have you tried this? Why don't you do that? When I was in that situation, I did X and it worked. You mean well. You think you're helpful. But what you actually do is turn their vent into a problem to be solved in 30 seconds. You inadvertently erase the thing they needed most, the right to be felt. Here's the Stoic truth. People don't always come to you for answers. They come to be seen, to be heard, to have their emotional weight acknowledged, not minimized. Saying, "That sounds difficult," does exactly that. It acknowledges the gravity of what they're carrying without trying to shrink it into something tidy and solvable. It's not soft, it's not passive. It's emotionally intelligent. It's strength applied to another human being. Why those 3 words matter? Psychology will tell you people need 2 core responses when they disclose pain: validation and safe space. Validation articulates the reality of the feeling. This matters. This is heavy. Safe space means you are not going to weaponize the confession into a lecture. When you say, "That sounds difficult," you provide both. You validate the struggle and you open room for processing. You give the person permission to keep feeling messy without being judged for it. The paradox is this. Giving someone the space to process often leads them to the solution faster than your best advice. Humans figure things out by thinking aloud. When you stop interrupting their thought process with fixes, they can hear their own logic, sift options, and land on a decision that fits their life. Not your hypothetical playbook. Real examples. The colleague drowning in deadlines. Instead of offering time management hacks immediately, say, "That sounds difficult." Let them explain. Often they'll surface a root cause you wouldn't have guessed: toxic leadership, scope creep, or unrealistic timelines. Once the problem is understood, a targeted, practical suggestion lands with far more weight. The friend whose relationship is eroding. Resist the urge to tell them what to do. That sounds difficult invites them to map the hurt, the unmet needs, the small betrayals that built into something bigger. Only after they feel heard will they actually ask, "What would you do?" And then your advice is useful rather than patronizing. The parent exhausted from balancing work and kids. Immediate fixes feel dismissive. That simple phrase acknowledges the cumulative strain and signals you're not going to moralize their fatigue. How to deliver it like a man who leads with presence. Tone matters. "That sounds difficult" should land like a steady hand on a friend's shoulder. Calm, unhurried, intentional. If it's rushed or said with a smirk, it loses power and becomes patronizing. Practice presence. Breathe. Make eye contact. Let silence hold for a beat after you speak. That pause says as much as the phrase itself. Follow the phrase with an invitation, not instructions. After you say it, add one of these. "Do you want me to listen or help problem solve?" Gives agency. "Tell me what's been the hardest part." Invites clarity. "I can sit with this if you want. You don't have to fix it right now." Offers presence. Those follow-ups keep you out of the trap of unsolicited advice while making your support tangible. Why this is masculine, not weak. There's a cultural lie that to be masculine is always to produce, to fix, to have a plan. Stoicism flips that. Real strength is the capacity to stand steady while others wobble. It's to tolerate another person's chaos without collapsing into performative solutions. That sounds difficult, communicates a different kind of leadership, one that stabilizes rather than dominates. It creates trust. People who know you will respond this way are the ones who bring you real problems, not the shallow complaints they'd hide from others. Pitfalls to avoid. Don't weaponize the phrase as a phony empathy mask. If you don't mean it, don't say it. People detect performative sympathy immediately. Don't linger in passive agreement without action if action is requested. If the person asks for help, shift gears. Okay, let's map options. Validation and action are complementary, not exclusive. Don't use it as an excuse to stay emotionally distant. The point is presence, not detachment. Practical practice. Next time someone unloads, try this internal script. 1. Breathe. Resist the advisory reflex. 2. Say calmly. That sounds difficult. 3. Wait 3 seconds. Let silence encourage more. 4. Ask, do you want help brainstorming or do you want me to just listen? 5. If they ask for advice, offer it gently and as a suggestion. Here's what worked for me. Might not fit, but you could consider. Final thought. We mistake helpfulness for value. But human connection isn't a set of solutions. It's the willingness to be present without performance. That sounds difficult, is not a cop-out. It's a discipline. It's the practice of holding another person's reality without making it about your need to be useful. Do it with calm. Do it with sincerity. Over time, you'll notice people trust you with their real problems, and when they do ask for your counsel, it will carry the weight of something earned, not staged. Be the man who listens first. The rest follows. Phrase 4. Silence. Most people fear silence like it's a hole they must fill. A pause arrives in conversation, and panic follows. Scramble for a story, throw out a joke, narrate the weather. Anything to stop the quiet. We've all trained ourselves this way. We mistake incessant talking for value, volume for presence. The result is predictable, endless noise that means nothing. Words become wallpaper. People stop listening. Contrast that with a man who is comfortable with silence. He sits in a room while others rush to fill the void. He doesn't fidget. He doesn't rush to be interesting. When a question comes his way, he doesn't answer immediately. He waits 2-3 seconds. He thinks. He chooses one clear sentence and says it. Because he respected the pause, the room leans in. The pause signals weight. His words land with force. Silence is not absence. It's a vector for attention. When you speak rarely and well, your words change the air. They pull people forward. The blank space before a line of speech functions like a signpost. Something worth hearing is coming. That is why silence creates leverage. It forces others to reveal themselves as they scramble to occupy the space. You learn more from what people say to fill an awkward pause than you do from their rehearsed small talk. But this only works if your silence is genuine. If you sit there twitching, desperate for validation, your quiet reads like anxiety. People sense that. Your stillness becomes contagious in the wrong way. It makes others uncomfortable and pushes them into performative behavior. The power of silence depends on your inner state. If you're at peace with quiet, if you've practiced being alone with your thoughts, then your silence is magnetic. It calms the room, not because you commanded it with noise, but because you carry a calm that others want to match. The Stoics understood this. Silence is learned by bearing life's weight. Men who have seen struggle find no need to prove themselves in every conversation. Stoicism teaches that presence matters more than applause. Marcus Aurelius observed that restraint is often the truest expression of strength. Silence is the practical form of that restraint. It is the refusal to fill the world with empty signals. It is saying, "I will speak when I have something of worth to contribute." Silence also exposes character. Watch how someone behaves when the pause stretches. Do they perform? Do they attempt to charm? Or do they become honest? People reveal their patterns when they must create an answer out of pressure. The conversation's depths are often found in the responses to silence. You learn who is practiced in appearance and who is practiced in substance. There's another tactical advantage. Silence allows you to think. In a world addicted to immediate reaction, the man who pauses gains a cognitive edge. Quick, unconsidered replies are cheap. Deliberate replies are valuable. Pause long enough to frame your thought, then deliver one precise, thoughtful line. You'll be remembered not for the quantity of your words, but their quality. How to practice it without becoming cold. 1. Sit with discomfort. The first time you allow a silence to remain, it will feel awkward. That is the point. The discomfort belongs to everyone. Your tolerance reveals leadership. 2. Breathe before you speak. Use the pause to place your words. Breathing slows the impulse to fill the gap and clarifies intention. 3. Speak once, then stop. Make your point and let it land. Resist the urge to rephrase or explain away. Let others respond. 4. Use silence as a diagnostic tool. Notice how people behave when pushed to fill space. Their reactions tell you what they value and where their insecurities lie. 5. Be present, not performative. Silence must be rested in presence. If you're pretending to be mysterious, it looks manufactured. Real quiet is calm. Pitfalls to avoid. Silence as avoidance. Don't use quiet to dodge hard conversations you actually need to have. Silence should be a tool for clarity, not for evasion. Silence as superiority. Comfortable silence can be graceful. Arrogance is not. Let your quiet invite others, not shut them down. Faux mystery. People can smell performance. If your silence is an act, it will collapse under scrutiny. The practical returns are immediate. One-on-one conversations deepen because you're not patching emptiness with chatter. Groups gravitate toward you when they want a real opinion. Negotiations shift in your favor because the pause forces counterparties to reveal more. Dating improves because mystery becomes authenticity. Friends come to you with real issues because your silence proves you won't rush to fix them. You'll listen. Silence is learned discipline. It is the habit of men who do the work, who read, who meditate on their life, who accept their limits and therefore refuse the compulsion to fill every gap. When you master it, you stop being someone who must be heard. You become someone worth listening to. The world will lean in, because at last, your presence fills the space, not your words. If this landed, practice it today. Let one pause sit. Breathe. Notice what unfolds. Then speak once, intentionally. The rest will follow. Phrase 5. I appreciate you. Thanks recognizes an action. I appreciate what you did recognizes a favor. But I appreciate you recognizes the person. 3 words that change everything because they move the conversation from transaction to recognition. Think about it. The world treats people like machines. Produce results, check the box, move on. At work, you're measured by output. At home, you're measured by chores completed. Gratitude for actions is common. Recognition of character is rare. When you say, I appreciate you, you're pausing the conveyor belt and pointing to the human being underneath. The habits, the consistency, the quiet reliability most people never bother to notice. Example. A friend helps you move on a Saturday. Most people say, "Thanks for helping." Polite, yes. Effective, yes. But when you say, "I appreciate you," you're not thanking him for lifting boxes. You're acknowledging that he's the kind of person who shows up when it matters. You're honoring his pattern of behavior, his loyalty. That lands differently. It's felt, not heard. It's remembered, not filed away. Why it works? Humans crave being seen. Neuroscience and social psychology both tell us that recognition of identity, not just actions, binds people emotionally. When someone feels truly seen, oxytocin and attachment cues follow. Loyalty hardens, trust deepens. You become someone who creates safe spaces rather than someone who keeps score. Use it sparingly and honestly. If you throw "I appreciate you" at the barista who hands you coffee with a smile, it loses meaning. The phrase gains gravity because it's rare and reserved for moments that reveal character. The teammate who consistently carries the workload, the partner whose small gestures over time build a life, the friend who shows up when others don't. Reserve the phrase for pattern, not momentary convenience. How to deliver it so it actually matters. Make eye contact. Let your attention match your words. People can smell performative praise. Be specific. Follow the phrase with one detail. "I appreciate you. You stayed when others left." Or, "I appreciate you. You always make time for the team." The specificity anchors the emotional currency to observable truth. Mean it privately and publicly. Saying it in private builds intimacy. Saying it in front of others broadcasts that you value that person, and social recognition amplifies loyalty. Don't expect reciprocity. You're not buying favor. You're affirming character. The payoff arrives later, not immediately. Avoid common mistakes. Don't weaponize the phrase, "I appreciate you," when you actually do your job. That's passive-aggressive. It erodes trust. Don't use it to grease social obligations. And don't let recognition become a currency for leverage. Genuine appreciation is freely given, not transactional. There's a Stoic dimension here. Marcus Aurelius reflected on valuing what is real, the practice of examining people for their virtues rather than their appearances. Appreciating someone's character is the modern application of that principle. It's moral clarity applied to relationships. It's recognizing the human beyond utility. The long-term returns are real. Teams stick together. Partners feel seen and therefore reveal more of themselves. Friends stay loyal because you've acknowledged their core. People become less transactional with you because you modeled a deeper standard. In practice, "I appreciate you" flips the social ledger. You invest emotional capital, and people invest loyalty in return. Final test. Try it genuinely this week. Don't hand it out like a courtesy. Find one person whose consistency you've taken for granted and tell them in plain words, "I appreciate you." Watch their face. Watch how they stand a little taller. That reaction is not vanity. It's the human recognition of being seen. It's one of the few things in life you can give that multiplies rather than diminishes. If you used "I appreciate you" honestly today, type "seen" in the comments. If you didn't, make a plan. Who will you recognize tomorrow? Small acts of recognition become the bones of a life built on respect rather than transaction. And that is how real influence is forged. Phrase 6. No. One word. The hardest one for most people to say. Someone asks for your time, your energy, your presence at something you don't want to attend. And your instinct is to soften it, invent an excuse, or say, "maybe." No feels abrupt, rude, uncomfortable. So we drown ourselves in commitments we don't want, spend evenings with people who drain us, and fill our calendars with obligations that leave no room for what actually matters. Every forced yes teaches the world how little you value your time. When you never refuse, your availability becomes the default expectation. Your presence loses value because it is free and unlimited. People stop asking if you can come. They assume you will. You become the man who exists to service other people's convenience, and there is nothing attractive about that. Contrast the man who can say no. He pauses, considers the request, and answers clearly, "No, I can't." No long apology, no elaborate story. The clarity itself communicates something the most persuasive speech cannot: standards. When you protect your time, others respect it. When you occasionally say yes, it carries weight. They know you chose to be there. This is not about being selfish. It's about stewardship. Your attention, energy, and presence are finite resources. Every yes to something trivial is a no to something important. Your goals, your health, your projects, your real relationships. Epictetus taught us to first learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. If yes means anything at all, your no must be real enough to keep it honest. Practical rules for using no without burning bridges. Pause before you answer. Silence is your ally. A thoughtful no is better than an automatic yes. Keep it simple. No, I can't. Or no, that won't work for me. Short, firm, dignified. No long explanations that invite negotiation. Offer alternatives only when you mean them. Don't soften no with maybe next time, unless you really mean it. A real alternative looks like, "I can't tonight, but I'm free Wednesday." Don't apologize for boundaries. You can be firm and courteous. "Thanks for asking, but I'll pass." That's enough. Let consequences filter relationships. Those who value you will adapt. Those who only wanted convenience will fade. That's the point. Real-world example. A colleague asks you to cover a weekend shift that would derail your training schedule. The default you learned says yes. The Stoic response is a short, honest no. I've committed that time to my training. You don't grit your teeth, you don't over-explain. You protect the priority. The colleague may be annoyed, they might ask again, but over time they learn you have limits, and they'll either respect them or not. Either outcome is informational. Both are preferable to chronic erosion of your life. There is another element here: the social ripple. People respect those who respect themselves. Saying no clarifies your identity. You're a person with priorities, not a people-pleaser on demand. Your yes becomes meaningful because it is chosen, not defaulted. Your relationships improve by subtraction. Fewer superficial obligations. More intentional presence with those who truly matter. Beware the traps. Don't make no a blunt weapon used to punish or withdraw honorably. This is not passive aggression disguised as discipline. The point of no is clarity, not cruelty. Use it to protect your time, not as leverage in petty fights. Ultimately, the ability to say no is a practice of freedom. It's how a man reclaims agency over his life. The Stoics taught that freedom is not having fewer responsibilities. It's having chosen responsibilities. Say no to the noise. Say yes deliberately to the things that align with your purpose. That single word, when used with integrity, rewires how the world treats you and how you treat yourself.